Okay, so we're going to continue right here, Unit 3. So Unit 3 was a lot of our transformation problems, and I don't know how good the videos will be here for helping with these, because a lot of the techniques we used involved either people like to use the patty paper, or we talked about turning the paper so you could see, and those aren't really things that I can do effectively with the computer, but we'll try our best. So number 19, complete the table with the missing parts. So here we're starting with an original graph, and then we're going to go to a new one that we need to create. So what's it asking me to do? So if I look over here, it's telling me what to do right here. So I'm going to take my original graph, the pre-image, and we're going to move it over 2 units to the right and then 6 units down. So I'm going to take each point, I'm going to go to the right 1, 2, and then down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so C is going to end up here, which is here. And then B, same thing. We're going to go to the right 2, so 1, 2, and then down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that ends up actually right at the origin. B. And then, so I'll put that there. And then A, same thing. So to the right 2, and then down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's on the same level as C and over 1, 2, 3. All right, so I did it on the original one there. I mean, remember, our test's going to be multiple choice. So thinking about what that strategy might be, you're not going to have to draw to get credit. I mean, you probably need to draw on your test like I did over here, right, to figure out where it's going to be, but it's going to be a multiple choice situation where you have to pick out the correct one probably. So make sure you kind of know what to be on the lookout for there. Okay, so we moved it over. What's the slope of AB? So if I look at the original, I guess the original's up here. So look at the slope of AB, right? A to B, it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to the right 1, 2, 3. And if I look at the new one, it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to the right 1, 2, 3. So the slope was 5 over 3, and the slope was 5 over 3. Describe in words, it gave to us the slopes we did, and then the rule. So what happened here? Remember the x went to the right 2, so we moved it positive direction 2, and the y went down 6. All right, so part B, here it gives me the rule, so it actually tells me here what happened. And oh geez, these are a little bit different than how we learned them, but that's okay. So x plus 1, that means it's going to go to the right 1. And this part right here, negative y, if y goes to negative y, right, that actually meant I reflected. Whichever axis you reflect across, then that variable stays the same, and the other one flips. So if the y went from y to negative y, that means I reflected across the x-axis. So that's what we did here. We reflected. That rule tells me that we're going to reflect across the x-axis, and then we're going to go to the right 1. So let's see what that looks like here. So D, point D, would reflect across the x-axis, so it would go from there to there, and then to the right 1. So it's going to end up there. F, which is right here, is going to reflect across the x-axis, so it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 above, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 below, and then move to the right 1. So it's going to be right there. And then E is going to reflect across the x-axis and move to the right 1. So it's going to be at negative 1, 2, 3, negative 1. right? So that was, I should have labeled these. That was F, and that was E. Okay, so it reflected, and then it moved to the right one time. So what's the slope of EF? Original EF is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 3. Actually, the same as the last one. Now, what is the slope of E prime? Whoops, I forgot my primes. E prime F prime, well, it goes down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so negative 5, and to the right 3. So negative 5 over 3. So by reflecting it, right, we saw up above, translating it, moving it side to side, did not, or up and down, didn't change the slope, but this one, the slope flipped because it reflected. All right, and this was the one I think it's going to be a little bit trickier to do on the computer without being able to visually move these things around, but or use the patty paper. So C, it doesn't give me the rule over here, but it does tell me in words what happened. So rotated 180 degrees about the origin. So if I remember what my rules that we came up with were, and it goes 90 to go, it's clockwise, which every 90 degrees I rotated counterclockwise, which is actually 180 counterclockwise and 180 clockwise are the same thing, right? Doesn't matter which direction you turn around. If you turn around 180 degrees, you're in the same place. So I know every 90 degrees, right, if I go 90 degrees, they flip, and the first one changes. So if I go 90 degrees again, they'll flip again, and the first one changes. So I know that the x, y will end up at negative x, negative y. That's probably the easiest way to do it on the computer. If you're not sure, like, you know, what the heck just went on right there, then on the test, take the patty paper, trace GH and rotate it around the origin, right? Put your pencil right on the origin and flip it 180 degrees and see where it ends up. So let's see, the slope, well, actually let's plot the points first. So G right there would be negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So this was the point negative 4, 1. It's going to end up, remember they're going to flip at positive 4, negative 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to end up here, G prime. And H is at 1, 5. And they're going to flip. So it's going to end up at negative 1, negative 5. So negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 5. And then it asks me for the slope, and I can see, actually this is kind of interesting what happens here, but the slope, well, I'll go right over that. It went up 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my slope originally was 4 over 5. And from G prime H prime over here, I can see it's going to be the same. It was up 4 and over 5. But actually, this one, the first one, I started at G and went to H, and this one I started at H and I went to G. So if I would have started at G and gone to H on this one, I would have had negative 4 over negative 5, and they would have canceled out. So it's kind of, the slope ends up being the same, but it's actually going in the opposite direction of, like, the start and end points have flipped. All right, so number 20. So we'll do number 20, and then maybe we'll see how it goes. 20, 21. We got a whole bunch here. So number 20. Plot and label the image of the triangle after the transformation. So again, these are all multiple choice questions. So there's a lot going on here in terms of what it's asking you to do on the study guide. The test is actually going to be probably simpler than the study guide. So don't be too intimidated if you're not, you're not going to have to write the rule and the slope and the description. You might have to pick those things out, one of those 4 things out of a multiple choice test. So here we go. X, Y goes to X minus 2. So this means it goes left 2 And this means y plus 4, it goes up 4, up 4. So I'm going to take all my points, I'm going to go left 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4. B, left 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have A prime, B prime, and then left 2 and up 1, 2, 3, 4. So C prime. So negative 3, negative 2, that was point A, so I know it went left 2, so it ended up at negative 5, and it went up 4, so it ended at 2, right? So negative 5, 2, that's the coordinate of this one right here. So the slope of AB, if I look at my slope triangle, it goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think. So the slope is 4 over 7, and A prime, B prime will also be 4 over 7, right? If I translate it, it hasn't changed. That's like really what this part of the unit was all about, more than anything, right? That, whoops, junk going on there. It goes up 4 over 7, so it's going to be the same. Description, I'll save you the time of me writing it out, but it moved to the left 4 and up 2, right? We put that up at the beginning. So reflect over the x-axis, so that's actually the description here. So let's start filling this stuff in. If I reflect over the x-axis, right, remember we said if it reflects over one of the axes, then that variable stays the same and the other one flips, so I know what the rule is going to be. So without even looking at this, I know that the x is going to stay the same and the y is going to flip. So 5 would be negative 5. So let's see what happens here. So D, reflect over the x-axis, which is this line right here. So the D is 1 above. It's going to end up 1 below at D prime. The E is 1 above. It's going to end up 1 below at E prime. And the F is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units above the line of reflection. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I said, right? There. That would be F prime. And I can see the coordinates, that actually is negative 3, negative 5. So the slope of FE, right here, if I think of my slope triangle over here, it's going down 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my slope was negative 4 over 7. And the slope over here is actually going to be positive 4 over 7. All right, 20C, rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. So we saw our rule, if I rotate 90 degrees, every 90 degrees they flip places. So if I look at my rule down here, they flip and the first one changes sign. So if I want to know what happens with the 0.51, they're going to flip and the first one changes sign. So if I rotate it 90 degrees, this is the part where, oh, actually it might work here. So the slope of GH, see if I can do this a little bit creatively with the computer. So if I go from G to H, I go up 3 and to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So slope of GH is 3 over 7. If I rotate 90 degrees, I wonder if I can just turn this whole thing like that. Oh, I did. Oh, it didn't take my marks with it though. That's what I was afraid of. That's okay. So now it asks me what the slope of GH prime are, so I can actually come on here and see what they are. So from G and H, right, I'd have to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I go down 7 and to the right 1, 2, 3. So when I rotated 90 degrees, the slopes, it's just kind of the same, similar to what happened with the rule, right? We flipped and the first one changed sign, so that's what happened here. The slope flipped, like became the reciprocal, and it changed sign. So it's kind of all related to each other. All right, and I'm just going to go ahead and try and crank these out. It might be a longer video, but we'll just have one video for all the transformation stuff. So these two are pretty easy right here. So name two transformations that will map this onto itself. So if I rotate it, if I reflect it, or if I slide it around, what's going to put it back on itself? Well, there's no way I can really slide it back onto itself unless I move it like left and then back right. That's not really, I don't think, I guess I could do that. Like I move it left 2 and then right 2. But I think probably the single transformation that will put it back onto itself, I could reflect across the x-axis. Right, that would basically just flip it over on top of itself. I could reflect across the y-axis, right? That would put it back on top of itself, and I think I could actually rotate it. Right? It only asked me for 2, but I could rotate it 180 degrees. Right? I could rotate it 360 degrees. Right? Those things would all put it back on top of itself. And actually, it's the exact same thing for this one right here. A and B have the same thing. All right, so that one's pretty easy. And last one for this video, it's been a long video here on transformations. Complete the following transformations. Rotate this given triangle here for A, PQR. Rotate it 180 degrees counterclockwise and then up 3. So we could use patty paper, trace it, rotate it, and then slide it. I'm going to try and do it with the computer this way. So what happens if I rotate it 180? All right, that means I rotate it 180 and then up 3. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move every single point up 3. So 1, 2, 3. That would be point R prime. P would go up 1, 2, 3. That would be P prime, and Q would go up 1, 2, 3. That would be Q prime. Right, so this is how I do it with my paper. I turn the paper and see where it goes and then do what it says, and then actually I turn the paper back. And this one actually it'll help me that the points stay where they are, I think. All right, so it should be right there. All right, so that tells me where it's going to be right there. Boom, boom, boom. All right, so reflect. I don't know if I can reflect the picture, but we'll see. Okay, reflect triangle ABC across the x-axis and then right 3. So I can't really do it with the aid of the computer, so I got to just do it by hand. So reflect across the x. So B is going to go 1 unit away, so it's going to go 1 over here, and then to the right 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to put a point. Actually, it's a different color. I'm going to put a point right there. All right, and that's B prime. A is going to go 3 units away, so I go 3 on the other side, and then to the right 3. A prime. And then C, I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the line of reflection, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the other side, and then to the right 1, 2, 3. So it's going to end up right there. C prime. And again, remember, these are multiple choice, so you're going to have to be able to do what I just did and then look at probably a choice of 4 and figure out which one is correct. So C, map this triangle DEF with the given rule. So negative x minus 1y. Oh geez, this is a tough one. So the y stays the same, so that's a good thing. But this part right here, right, if we have a, it's kind of a, this is a composition, so taking two of the things that we learned and doing it at once. So right here, that -1 means it's moving left 1, and this negative sign in front of the x, right? Remember, if we reflect, then the axis we reflect across stays the same and the other one changes sign. So the y stayed the same and the x changed sign. That means it's reflecting across the y-axis. So those are the two things that we have to do here. So we got to reflect across the y-axis and then move it left 1. Yeah, that's right. So we want to be careful we don't move it left and then reflect, right? Because that would put it in a different spot. So reflect across the y-axis. So D, actually, it's right on the axis, so it's going to stay on the y-axis for the reflection, and then we move it to the right 1. Right, so D prime. So F, reflect across the y-axis, that's going to put it here, and then we move it to the left 1. E, reflect across the y-axis, so it's 1, 2, 3 units away, so I go 1, 2, 3 to reflect, and then to the left 1. All right, so I know those are a little bit tricky. So, all right, that was a longer video, but we got all the transformation stuff in. I didn't create this test, so, this is the first time I've administered this particular test, and it looks like there's going to be more on this one that incorporates the rules than we have done in the past. So this is definitely something we want to study here in the last, few days before the test, is those rules for the transformations. Right? We have to know what those rules mean. You can't just rely on the wording and then using patty paper, right? We have to know what the rules mean, and then we can use the patty paper if that helps us, right? But there's going to be an extra step involved, so let's make sure we know how to do that before we hit the test.